Monday morning. This is Dustin Hobbs of the California MBA. Welcome to Connect, our weekly podcast featuring one-on-one interviews with movers and shakers in the mortgage industry. We've got a great guest today, someone that I've wanted to have on the podcast here for quite a while. Is an old friend of the California MBA's and mine, so I'm really looking forward to a great conversation today, talking about sort of the future of the industry and where we're at now, and I think he's going to have a really interesting perspective for everyone to hear. But before we get into that, I want to thank our sponsors at Incelerate. Incelerate's the leading mortgage lead management, CRM, and engagement platform, and it helps lenders close more loans by increasing efficiency gains across sales, marketing, operations, management, and they've just announced, actually last week, the first of its kind mobile app. The groundbreaking mobile app features full lead management, lead distribution, click-to-call, inbound call routing, first call automation, and two-way compliant text messaging, and provides access to critical loan information without having to use a laptop or log into their LOS system. It also empowers loan officers by intelligently distributing leads, managing pipelines, prioritizing their day, automating best practices, and personalizing the borrower's journey, all from the mobile app. So for more information or to catch a demo, visit incelerate.com or call the number at that's listed in the description below. So before we get into our conversation with our guest today, I want to make sure and toss it to Susan Milazzo, our CEO, who's got this week's weekly video update. Susan?
Hi, this is Susan with the California MBA, here with your weekly video update. This week we're talking about our Western States CREF conference that will be happening virtually September 9th and 10th. We're very happy to be welcoming back our own Mary Ledgen, who's been very popular at this conference for many years. She's, of course, Director of Global Research at Heitman and always does a fantastic real estate market update for us. We're also welcoming John Chang, who is National Director of Research at Marcus & Millichap, who will be giving our economic update. Also, panels that will be talking about the current market, as well as the impact of COVID-19 on the commercial real estate finance industry, which of course has been significant. For our keynote speaker, we'll be welcoming radio personality, comedian, author, and podcaster, Adam Carolla. So don't miss an opportunity to hear what's on Adam's mind, and we'll be very happy to be welcoming him as our keynote speaker. Visit our website today and register so that you can get our conference experience kit. So that's going to be a package that we're going to send to you. It's going to have some fun logoed items from our conference sponsors, as well as some drink recipes for our reception. We'll be touring the SoFi Stadium virtually, as well as some codes to win prizes throughout the event. So please join us for this year's Western States CREF Conference. That's it for this week, and we'll see you next time.
All right, thanks, Susan. Looking forward to a great conference here coming up with some great guests and speakers. So I think everyone's got some good information there to check out and make sure and visit the conference site for more information. All right, let's jump into the conversation. Today, I'm excited to welcome Dave Zitting. Dave's the co-chair, co-founder, and chief lending officer of Avenu Technologies. He's a former board member of the California MBA. He's actually, some of his ideas still live on today. Dave is sort of the brainchild when he was on the board of our Mortgage Innovators Conference, what became the Mortgage Innovators Conference. So I'm really excited to hear what he has to say. He's got a great mind on technology innovation in the industry. So welcome, Dave.
Thank you. I'm glad to be a part of it, Dustin. It's good to see you and thrilled to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's great to see you as well. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start with your background. What's your journey through the mortgage industry? And how did you end up starting Avenu?
Journey through the mortgage industry started in it when I was 17 years old, processing loans. Grew up in the operations side, became an originator, did that for 10 years, and then was founder and co-founder and CEO of a national mortgage bank called PRMI for 20 years. Absolutely enjoyed that. That was a blast. And then sold that business my interest in that business a couple of years ago, and just saw this new opportunity in the industry in modernization of the housing experience for consumers when buying a home, and what we call single point event transactions. So really kind of steered my career towards modernization, technology, consumer experience, and we've been focusing on that now here at Avenu Technologies for the last couple of years, and really excited about it.
Well, if you want, I mean, by all means, give for folks who out there who aren't maybe familiar with Avenu, I mean, give us the sort of the elevator pitch.
Great, absolutely. So one of the things that we've recognized is that consumers are being educated they have a new set of expectations as they've been educated in all of these other consumer experiences that they have. A good example of it is Amazon. You can go onto Amazon, get everything you want, and you can hit a button, and all of a sudden this whatever it is shows up at your doorstep. That is a perfect example of what we call a single point event transaction. You hit a button, and all of these millions of gears in the background are happening for the customer in a whole bunch of different realms. And they end up with this result, this end result. And that end result has become a requirement of theirs as they've been making decisions as to any other way that they purchase things or do things as a consumer. We can see that obviously in Amazon, but we also see it when they want to go from point A to point B. We see it when they want food delivered to their home. We see it when they want to buy a car or when they want to rent a home or a hotel anywhere in the world. And so really quickly, consumer expectation is changing, and it's really starting to change in some really complex areas of their decisions. And now they have an expectation that that's changing when they buy a home. And as we know, we look at the housing industry as a whole is actually made up of a lot of different industries. You've got the finance aspect of the industry, you've got the real estate sales aspect of it, you've got the insurance, what I call the unplug out of your old home, plug into your new home aspect of it. And there ends up being really great technology and process in each one of those siloed industries, but often the consumer has to find that wherever they entered the industry, they have to kind of navigate through those other silos. So we wanted to be able to supply a platform that allowed for consumers to have a single point event experience, and we wanted to at the same time respect the nature of the industry. This is a very emotional transaction that creates specialization, right? Specialists, all of us real estate agents and mortgage loan originators and title folks and all of these specialists in the industry. Well, that also creates these specialists working together, and it's a relationship driven business. So we wanted to be able to weave and respect the relationship side of this industry while at the same time supplying the consumer this single point event transaction. And the culmination of that comes together in the product we created, which is our IntraLend platform. And these generally are installed into large and prestigious real estate firms. And it allows for that exact thing to happen. It allows for the agent and the consumer to have choice, but to create a single point event transaction while at the same time being an open market platform and respecting all of those relationships that are built. We want to weave into the way that professionals do their business in the industry, not try to change it. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to be to work on this riddle, and we believe that we have successfully done that, and we're on a great path right now.
Well, it's exciting to see it develop and sort of get propagated in the market here in the coming years for sure. Along those lines, I'm curious to know, just from a operations standpoint, from your standpoint as someone who's founded a couple of companies in the real estate and mortgage side of the business, what's the biggest challenge that you found in starting a tech business as opposed to a lending business?
Well, and we actually approached the technology side of this starting with the human equation in the industry. And so one of the first, I would say, challenges that we ran into is we're very contrarian to kind of the typical maybe Silicon Valley sort of tech thinking. And that is, number one, the staple of our platform is really based on the fact that this is a people business, that humans cannot be disintermediated out of this transaction. It's a very emotional transaction. It's a very complex transaction. And as folks are unplugging out of one home and plugging into another, it just really gets to the heart of a whole bunch of emotional things. And so we see where technology in the housing industry in a whole lot of ways has been focused on trying to automate and trying to make things happen without people. We believe that people are a mainstay in this industry, and so we wanted to start from that premise, and we wanted to weave the technology around that. So that was just explaining that to the technology world was the first challenge. And then the creation of that and developing the dynamic platform that we did that supported that was a big lift as well. And we're confident that we've been able to achieve both. And it's just fantastic to see something so elegantly weave into a professional's career, but yet they can have this really fantastic technological experience along with their customer as well, and to see that weave together. So that was probably the first hurdle that we needed to get over as we recognize the see a need, fill a need opportunity.
Yeah, well, and I think you're totally right that that is the big challenge that we just had our Mortgage Innovators Conference, and you see that with a lot of tech companies. That is the struggle, is trying to mirror that great technology and still have the human aspect and the user experience, get that right, and make sure that you don't build this great system that a user can't use, or an LO can't use, or an agent can't use. So
Right.
I think you got the right idea there.
Start with the motive, start with the human and the human aspect of our industry, and then work from there. That has been one of our strategies for sure.
I think starting there is the right move. I think you're right. So this year, though, obviously, it's been to say the least, a challenging year, even beyond just starting a new business and getting that off the ground. How has the pandemic changed your strategy or your focus? How has that affected you guys?
Interestingly enough, we started the company virtual. So as we have been deploying this out, virtual has been a big part of our entire strategy. So in some ways, there's been some real benefits. Instead of having to explain to people how to download Zoom and some of these other virtual tools that we use, like Slack and other things like that, everybody is aware of it now. So everyone got thrown into the deep end of the pool. So both from a customer all of our customer constituencies, being a large real estate brokerage, a real estate agent, maybe a loan originator we're recruiting into the platform, or a mortgage loan processor. What's so great is they just get that. They're super comfortable with it now. We've been a blend of both inter-office and remote work, and so the training on that stuff is just that has been one silver lining. From a challenge standpoint, I would say and most of our business is purchase business, because we work within the real estate firms. Certainly refinances come through our platform, especially with these incredibly low interest rates. We definitely have seen an increase in refinances. But at the end of the day, I would say the biggest problem that we've had in our growth is just available talent, people, because there's just so many, 66% of lender pipelines are refinance, and so everybody's busy. But we've been very fortunate. I'm super grateful, because we have good momentum now. We've got a great process in which we bring folks in and introduce them to the platform and what the career opportunity is. So we finally got some momentum going there. But that one was a definitely fastball thrown at us. That one changed everything, as all of a sudden everybody's pipelines filled up really, really quickly.
Yeah, that was some fastball with some high heat on it for sure. Question for you. So you mentioned rates. Obviously, rates, that's what's helping drive the little refi boom that we're in right now. I shouldn't say little, the huge refi boom we're in right now. Exactly. Are there any other? What are the sort of the key economic indicators that you keep an eye on these days, aside from maybe rates?
Oh man, I tell you what, we watch, in the space that we're in, we certainly watch very closely what's happening with the consumer psyche related to their confidence in buying and selling a home. And so when we look at that, and again, we are so fortunate to be working with these absolutely incredible and prestigious real estate firms. They're just outstanding, multi-billion-dollar plus operations, and we have access to just some really incredible data and some deep understanding of what's going on there. So we're really embedded in understanding what's going on there. Obviously, this issue with COVID has got its its challenges within that. These interest rates obviously have consumers thinking different things. So there's a whole host of things as we sit here and watch this, and what is going to happen in the months and just the next couple of years ahead as we see us obviously get past the COVID thing. We then will start to see more clearly how deep is the hole in the economy that we need to fill? What are all the ways that will happen? Will it psychologically heal faster than it will through fundamentals? What will that do to the psyche of the housing consumer, and will they still find comfort in that sell and that buy? It's a massive industry, and we see it change from year to year, $500 billion to $1 trillion, which is amazing, which is just amazing. But it's still, if you look at the very worst years, post some of these crises that we've had over the last 50 years in the housing industry, and it's still just this gargantuan amount of volume and industry. So from that standpoint, we're working to get our percentage of market share, working with the right people. But at the end of the day, it is more important for us to understand how will these economic changes in every aspect, employment, interest rates, inventories, home inventories, and all of these things, how is that going to impact the decision that a consumer is going to make, and what do we think the forecast is going to be based on that? And so we're kind of really watching some really global numbers and some big things, not as sensitive with interest rates. If you're running a pipeline and 66% of it is refinance, you're definitely watching that rate a little bit closer. We're really wanting to find out, hey, if rates go up a quarter, what is that going to do with the consumer making the decision on this home that they want to potentially buy and this one that they want to potentially sell? So those are the things that we're really, really focused on. And it's the first time in my career that I've had that kind of hyper focus in that way. And it's been really interesting. And there's some really interesting things happening. But it looks to me like, we even with this challenge that we've had with COVID, and we'll undoubtedly see more foreclosures, we'll undoubtedly see some unknown results of this from market to market to market. But at the end of the day, we have a pretty substantial inventory issue, and some of those numbers will create more inventories, but at the end of the day, structurally, we're not building enough homes. There's not enough space. There's a lot of regulation that keeps A&D from happening effectively, and I think that structurally, there's still going to be demand on the sell. So those are the things we're watching, and it looks pretty good. We think the next couple of years, we try to only look out that far, and beyond that, even that's difficult. But we think that there's still really good demand. We think interest rates are going to stay pretty low. We think that needs to happen for some time, and the government's going to continue to help support that. So I think we got a pretty good market ahead of us.
Yeah, I think you're right that I think if anything the last year has shown us, it's that predicting out anything more than maybe like the next week is a scary proposition. Yeah. So let's pivot here for a second. I'm curious. You you've sort of taken off that IMB CEO hat and you've put on your tech CEO hat. I'm curious to know, sort of maybe putting back on that IMB CEO hat for a second. Where do you think we are on the mortgage tech side? And just maybe from your previous experience at PRMI, I mean, do you think it's a matter of do we need more tech out there? Is there a gap somewhere where we don't have the right tech, or is it just a matter of companies need to do a better job utilizing the tech that's already out there?
It's probably more of the latter. There is just some absolutely incredible technology firms out there, and you see what they've got deployed in the marketplace, either through sales or through pilots and different things like that. Imagine what they have going on in their back room. Imagine what is going on that is beyond alpha, beyond beta, and is actually becoming more real. And I can tell you that there's a rush of technology that will come into the industry regardless of how lenders are deploying it or not. We're going to see a lot of lender silo technology. And there's some really incredible stuff out there, and there's some more to come that's just mind-boggling and data-driven and lots of automation and lots of different things. We kind of approached it a little bit differently. We definitely see a lot of technology being developed in silos. So we see technology being developed in the lending silo, or in the real estate silo, or in the unplug and plug back in silo, and those sorts of things, insurance and what have you. What we wanted to approach is we wanted to approach it from a consumer experience across all of the industries, and approach it as more of a housing transaction than a mortgage transaction or a real estate transaction or an insurance transaction, and really look at it that way. So one of the ways that we approach this and deciding on our technology, and as we look at other technologies that are being developed, is if you were to ask a customer, surveying the customer at the end of the day how their experience was, we tend to survey them at the lender level, at the real estate level, at all these different things. Well, we should be asking one simple question at the very end of when they moved into the home: did you enjoy buying a home? We ask them, did you enjoy your mortgage and your technological experience there? Yes. Did you enjoy working with your real estate agent? Yes. Did you enjoy? And what we need to ask is just a simpler question: did you enjoy buying a home? And quite often that answer is unfortunately no, because we've got these siloed technologies and we're making these amazing improvements in these areas. But again, we need to work together as an industry to bring these technologies together so that we can supply the consumer, again, what we call a single point event transaction, where they feel like this is happening in a very organized and consolidated fashion, but yet at the same time, respecting the fact that we've got these specialists, because it's an emotional transaction, and we have specialists that help manage those emotions. And so I think if I had a IMB CEO cap on, my objective would be, how do I take what I'm doing here at my lending firm and all this great technology that's supplying the consumer this experience on the lending side, how do I integrate that in the rest of the aspect of this transaction, of this housing transaction, which is the real estate firm's technology, which is the title firms, the insurance industry, the unplug and plug back in. How can I bridge some of that so that I can ask my customer a more important question at the end of the day: did you enjoy buying a home?
You're saying almost, expand the definition of a transaction. Think of it more than just the mortgage transaction. It's the entire process of buying a house from start to finish, not just the lending in between.
That's exactly right. And we see individual businesses that have successfully, to some degree or not, provide everything under one roof, but that's one firm and that's one capability. What we want to approach is we want to approach it in an open market platform. We want all the lenders and all of the firms to be able to work together, but at the end of the day, the consumer still ends up having a feeling that this all happened in a single point event, and it was managed, and I was guided through this experience. But I still had the ability to shop, and I still had the ability to enjoy these amazing technologies and all of these different aspects of the transaction. But again, to your point, there's a lot of really amazing technologies being created in these silos, and we're going to be flooded with a lot of those over the course of the months and years ahead. What I'm hoping that we see as an industry is a coming together of these technologies, and with an idea, with a concept that says we've got to be able to respect the nature of our industry. There's a lot of components to it. I believe that there always will be, and if we can find a way to come together and supply the consumer an experience that at the end of the day, they felt like they didn't have to navigate through a whole bunch of different things independent of each other, I think that we will achieve the goal, the big goal that we're trying to achieve with technology. And there's a lot of work being done out there, Dustin. It's really fantastic what's happening out there. And I think we could talk more. I think all the different siloed industries within housing could communicate together more. I would love to see a conference based on technology that was made up of all the industries: the lending industry, the real estate sales industry, the title industry, and the home services industry, and that there was more work being done together. There was committees being developed and those sorts of things, because at the end of the day, a lot of other industries have accomplished that. A consumer can go have an experience in so many other consumer related ways. Some of these dang cars out there they buy are about a third or half the cost of their dang home.
Yeah.
and yet they can just have that feeling, and it can all happen in such a consolidated experience that they come out of it and they're like, yeah, that was fun. I was okay. It wasn't so bad.
Click and the car suddenly shows up at your doorstep. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's exactly right. Along with everything else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's project out then. Let's say in a idealized world that all happens, that there is a coming together of the industries. How does that change the borrower's experience? Like maybe 5 years from now or 10 years from now, what does the borrower, from start to finish, what does that experience look like? How is it different?
Well, our goal, and I'll just share what we aim for. So our goal is for a consumer now we focus on where the consumer enters the market, which we call consumer point of entry. We focus on large, prestigious real estate firms, and we see that that's a very viable and ongoing successful entry point for the consumer. So where they enter the market, we want the experience for them to feel like this is where I started and this is where it completed. I'm going to share an analogy here really quickly. When you buy a car, you can go online, you can shop, you can have it delivered, you can do all sorts of things, and there's all of these different entry points. One very successful ongoing consumer entry point is auto dealerships. Why? Because it's a very tangible item. It's an emotional transaction as well, to some degree, not as much as a house, but it is. And people want to, drive the car. They want to smell it. They want to feel the brakes and the acceleration before they sign on the dotted line. Well, auto dealerships found out that, and if you look at the purchase of a car, there's a lot of that. A lot of these siloed industries that are involved in that transaction. Well, there's obviously the car, but then you've got a loan, and then you've got insurance, and then you've got maybe upgraded wheels and tires, you've got a clear bra, you've got an undercarriage coating, you've got gap insurance, you may want tinted windows. So there's all these different things that are supplied by different businesses and by different industries. Well, the auto industry via auto dealerships really understand the power of single point event transaction. A consumer walks in and they buy the car, they finance the car, they get everything they want for the car, and they leave 3 hours later, and they felt like it all happened there. Now the magic is that they designed the business so that multiple businesses were actually working to supply the consumer that experience. We're a big believer that that is possible, and we're actually doing it every day right now within the housing industry. But there's a trick to it in the housing industry. We have to respect the fact that it is a relationship-driven business. So when we install a technology platform within a real estate firm, when the consumer comes in, our goal is for them to feel at the end of the day that, you know, I came into RE/MAX Associates and all of this happened. And when I left, I felt like it all happened here. However, what the firm was able to do down to the individual real estate agent level is they were able to leverage and utilize all of the professional relationships in the marketplace to supply that consumer that experience without them feeling like they needed to go from silo to silo to silo to silo. And so that's one example of it. There's many examples of this, and it really also depends on where the consumer entered the market. You can look at some of the largest lenders in the industry, and that's where they entered the market, and they are creating the rest of the experience around it on their point. And that's great. They're aiming exactly right. We're aiming at this particular entry point, but at the same time, auto dealerships found out in the 70s that if the consumer had to leave the dealership to go get financing, there was a good chance they weren't going to come back or they were frustrated. Well, we want to be able to have a consumer get to the end of a transaction, still leveraging all of these important relationships with lenders and title folks and insurance folks and home services folks. But at the end of the day, when you ask the consumer a question, how was that experience? They can say, oh, it was great. I had competitiveness, I had choice, everybody was there when I needed them, and I really never had to go try to figure anything out. It all showed up as I needed it. That's where we're trying to get to, and it's not an easy thing to do, regardless of wherever the consumer is entering the industry. Whatever that point of entry is, you've got your own basket of challenges. This happens to be our focus. And so I think the future is about supplying the consumer that outcome, being able to ask them a question, did you enjoy buying a home? And the feeling that they had was they weren't lost and they weren't stuck in a maze. The feeling that they had is that it went smooth. And as they had concerns or questions, those were quickly answered because they had a central point in which all of these different specialists were able to operate together, and they felt like they didn't have to go to different worlds to do that, and yet still respect the nature of our industry and brilliant people that make impossible transactions possible. Every consumer shows up with a basket of emotions and a basket of unique things about them. There are 4 C's of finance, and so does the property, and so does everything else. So each one of them is an island on its own, but the consumer can still have that experience, and we're proving it every day, and we're really, really excited about that. But I think that we will see the industry aim for that objective. Technology platforms will learn to talk to each other better. Businesses will learn to communicate and talk and work together better. And at the end of the day, it's truly abundance out there. And the businesses that work together, that figure this out first, and the consumer ends up with that experience, I believe that that's where the consumer will go. And I believe that's modernization of our industry.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's a lot to be said there. Obviously, I think you and I could talk, endlessly about this. And I think there's a lot for folks in the industry to sort of chew on there. And so I'll leave it at that. Dave, hey, thanks again for giving us some time today. I know you're busy, and so I really appreciate you giving us your thoughts. And I always, appreciate the way your mind thinks, and you're forward thinking about where the industry, can and should go. So thanks again.
My pleasure. It was an honor to be a part of it, Dustin, and I'm excited to help CMBA out in the future as well in any way that I can. And congratulations on the great conference and everything you guys are doing. By the way, it's just amazing some of the heat-seeking missiles that have been launched at the California housing industry, and the work that all of you have done, and Susan and the team and everyone. It's just, thank you so much for the amazing efforts and all that you guys do. It's fantastic.
Well, hey, appreciate that, Dave. Thanks for the kind thoughts. So if you enjoyed the conversation, make sure and you can subscribe to us here on our YouTube channel, or we're also on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts. And then we'll be back again next Monday for another episode of Connect. We'll see you then.